here step by step through all the licks within the solo, and also explain a little bit about the music theory behind it, or lack of maybe. Because Angus was the type of guy that played from the gut. Every note he played was perfect. He wasn't a flashy guy, relative to, Van Halen and all those other guys that came a few years after him. But you know what? Every note he played was just spot on, and he had that great, thick, bluesy tone. So let's start with music theory. So in terms of music theory, it's pretty basic with this song. I mean, Angus Young really wasn't the type of guy that sat around and said, you know what, mate, I'm going to use the Mixolydian scale. I mean, he was a true blues bass player that really just shot from the hip and did a lot of stuff in the pentatonic scales, major and minor. And in this case, in this song, it's E minor pentatonic. He also includes the sharp sixth note, or C sharp, within the scale, which some might say, well, he's playing in Dorian, but again, I don't think Angus was thinking, hey, I'm playing in Dorian. He's probably thinking, hey, I'm just playing in E minor pentatonic, and I'm adding that C sharp note in, which is a really nice note to add in when you're playing blues-based licks. So here's E minor pentatonic. And here's E Dorian. Now you'll notice that in addition to the sharp sixth or C sharp note that I'm adding in, I'm also adding in the second note from the root, which is F sharp. But Angus doesn't really use that in the solo. But here's E Dorian in case you want to see how that's played. And the Dorian scales are really cool one to play when you're playing blues-based licks, because a lot of people going back, Chuck Berry and before, they like to use, to add in that second note and the sharp sixth, because it just, you can have fun with it. And one thing else I want to mention about tone here, you'll notice that I'm not using a ton of distortion, because that really wasn't Angus's style. You can download, if you've got a Pod HD 500 unit, you can download this patch at the Line 6 website at the following address. And if you want to use the same sound, and you'll notice as I'm playing these examples that there's a little bit of reverb and there's a little bit of a kind of a slapback echo delay on there, because I was trying to emulate the sound that he had in the Back in Black solo. If you listen closely, you can hear those elements. So here is lick 1. Now, a couple things you'll notice. When I hit that low E note, I'm not letting it ring out. It's a really quick, and then I hit the next note. Here it is slow. And next you'll notice that before I hit that first E note on the second fret of the D string, I'm doing a quick rake up to the note, kind of raking into it. And then you'll notice that the last two notes, the second fret of the G string followed by the second fret of the D string, I'm actually barring both strings with my ring finger to facilitate a quicker move from each note to note. Now section 2 starts the same as section 1, where you have that, and then you do a muted little click on the seventh, on the D string, followed by the 7th fret of the G string 4 times, and then quickly do a bend. Here it is again, slowly. Now that little chick note that I do right before hitting the 7th fret of the G string 4 times. That's just an example of some of the little nuances that if you add it in, it's going to sound a lot more authentic than if you try not doing that. Now you adjust at the end of section 2, did that 7th fret of the G string bend and vibrato. And then section 3 starts by quickly doing a 7th fret G string bend, 8th fret of the B string, 7th fret of the G string again, and then the low A note, and then a quick slide up to the 9th fret. And then the lick that starts at the 8th fret of the G string. You'll notice that right before I do the 9th fret of the G string, there's that little quarter step bend on the 8th fret of the B string. It's important not to overbend that. You just want to get that little quarter step bend in there to make it sound right. And then when I do the 9th fret of the G string followed by the D string followed by the G string, you'll notice that after I do the 9th fret of the D string and I do that final 9th fret G string note, I quickly move, even though I had just barred it across both strings, I quickly move just to the G string because I don't want the notes to blend together. It's not going to sound bad if you do because you're playing over an E chord at that moment, so it'll work, but again, I'm just trying to stay close to the original. Now section 4 starts with another quarter step bend, this time at the 12th fret of the G string, and it goes like this. You'll notice that when I do that 14th fret bend at the G string, I'm going to let it ring as I hit the next note, the 15th fret of the B string, like this. And then I do that final bend at the 14th fret, and then the final few notes. Now section 5 I'm tempted to call section 4B because they really kind of go together, but I wanted to break it up for the purposes of the lesson. So it starts with, you're going to hit the 12th fret of the D and the G strings at the same time, and then hammer onto the 14th fret of the G string, or the D string, like this. And what I do is I do an upstroke to do the 12th fret notes, and I'm barring, of course, at the 12th fret. And at the next part, where it looks like I'm hammering on from the 12th to the 14th, and then I do that 14th fret bend, it's a very quick hammer on, and you may not even notice it when you're playing this or listening to the solo. But if you really listen, you can hear him do that. So the tabs look like I'm doing this. But you got to do that 12th fret hammer onto the 14th really fast, like this. Now section 6 has probably some of my favorite phrasing in it, and I think it has to do with that 15th fret bend that he does near the beginning. There's something about the way he does it that just feels so good. So he starts with the 14th fret bend, and then hits the 12th fret of the E twice, and then does the 15th fret bend twice. And on the second one, he holds it for a second, and then he does a wild vibrato. So don't immediately hold it for just a little bit to get that right feel. And you'll notice that, I don't know why, it just feels right to me. When I do the notes on the 12th fret of the E string, and then I do the 15th fret bends, I'm doing all upstrokes. I don't know why, it just feels right to me to do that, but you can do it however you want to do it. And then in the next part, he does this lick. Now the next lick, you'll notice that when I get to the sequence of notes where I hit the 12th fret of the B string followed by the 12th fret of the G string, that I'm barring it, both strings. That is, of course, you should notice by now that I'm pressing down on both strings at the same time. And I'm doing an upstroke to hit both in sequence, and I find that helps you play the lick a little bit faster. So watch this. You'll see how I did a quick upstroke to go through those two notes. And then also you'll notice that when I do the 14th fret bends on the G string, and then I'm hitting that 15th fret D note next, I am holding the 14th fret note bend before it like this. Now, section 7, probably pretty straightforward. You start by sliding up to the 14th fret of the D string, and then you're going to bar the 12th fret of the B and G strings, play the 14th fret of the D string again, and then bar the 14th frets of the B and G strings and play those, and then go back to the 14th fret of the E string. So it's like this. And you'll notice that I'm doing all downstrokes on that, and it doesn't really matter that much, but to me it sounds better when I do that because it sounds like it places more of an emphasis on the notes that are on the G string, because you want those to be a little more prominent in there, so that's why I do downstrokes on that. In the next section, or the next part of the lick, bends up at the 14th fret, hits the 15th fret of the D string, again holding that 14th fret note, and then plays them together in a bend. So in the next part he's holding down the 14th fret of the G, 15th fret of the B, and doing them together, pulling off to the 12th fret of the G string, and then playing the 14th fret of the G string followed by the 14th fret of the D string. And you notice that for those last two notes I will bar it, but again, after I hit that 14th fret, I sort of lift up off the G string, so I'm just holding down the D string. So here's the lick, section 7 slow. Section 8, it's got another great bend by Angus, and I start by doing a quick rake up to that 15th fret note, and then do the bend. And you'll notice that when I do the 12th fret of the B string followed by the 12th fret of the G followed by the 14th fret of the D, that it's all one upstroke. And again, as I'm moving through those notes, even though I'm barring again on the 12th frets of those strings, I'm not going to play them all at once like this. I'm going to try to lift up my fingers off the strings I've already played. Again, one of those subtle nuances that'll make the difference in not only making it sound more like the original, but making the notes ring clear.
Section 9 is sort of the outro, if you could call it, to the solo.
And it starts with a slide up to the 4th fret of the G string, open E string, D, 3rd fret of the B string, 5th fret of the E string. It's okay to let some of those notes ring together like he does. And then next, you're going to play both the 3rd fret of the B string with the open E string, sliding the 3rd fret down to the 2nd, again playing the 3rd fret of the B string and the E together, and then just the 3rd fret of the B string. So like this. Similar sort of pattern with the next lick, except you're pulling off with the notes instead of doing a slide. And then you do a slide up to the 14th fret of the G string, and then the 12th fret of the B string followed by the 12th fret of the E string, and then a wide vibrato by bending up the 15th fret of the B string. And when you do that slide up, it's kind of all one motion. It's almost like a rake. And then section 10, you start by hitting the open G and B strings, and then this pattern. And then very similar to what you did in the last section. And then you do a quick little chick, and then, well, you do one of those, I guess you call it a double stop. You've got the 14th fret of the G string and the 15th fret of the B string. You play them together while doing a bend. And you go down and then back up in a wide vibrato. And to be honest, that last part where you're doing the... that's my approximation. I mean, toward the end of the solo, there's this little crescendo thing where, I don't know if crescendo is the right word, but when everything starts coming together, it's hard to hear what he does in those final notes, but that's my interpretation of what he's probably doing there, and I think it works. And to be honest, when you're playing this solo, if you just did your own thing at the end, like, or whatever you can come up with, it's going to sound good, as long as you stay within the E minor pentatonic or Dorian scale. So that's it. That's my lesson on how to play the main guitar solo from the song Back in Black. If you have questions or comments, feel free to leave them, and I'll try to answer as time allows. And don't hesitate to ask what you think are basic or stupid questions, because really there are none when you're learning to play the guitar, and it should always be fun. So let's keep it fun.